When it comes to being a successful landscaping contractor, skill and experience are factors, of course. But there's one other factor that separates the most successful contractors from the ones who have trouble getting their businesses off the ground, and that's estimating jobs. How to set perfect prices as a landscaping contractor. In order to set the right price for your landscaping services, you need to consider your operating cost as a business, your ideal profit margin, and your client's budget. First, you need to start by evaluating your cost. Labor costs are one of the most important aspects to consider when pricing a landscaping job. The type of workers you use will greatly affect your labor cost. There is a big difference in pay between specialized and general laborers. If you need to use additional workers, make sure to find out the going hourly rate for each type of worker in your area. In addition to labor cost, you also need to factor in the cost of materials. If you are providing the materials yourself, be sure to factor in the cost of tools and various equipment, as well as the price of dirt, stone, mulch, or any other necessary material. Similarly, if you can share material with other nearby jobs, you'll be able to further reduce your cost. Consider too the type of pricing you want to offer. Most landscaping contractors charge by the project, a fixed rate, which can give the client peace of mind in knowing that they only pay the one cost and it's not dictated by the number of hours you work. An hourly rate, though, can provide more flexibility for certain clients. Finally, if you think you might be able to win additional contracts or consistent work from the client, be sure to factor that into your bid. By taking all of these factors into consideration, you'll be able to submit a well-informed bid that stands a good chance of being accepted by the client. You should be sure to price your services so your customers feel like they're getting value for their money. If you can do this, then you'll be able to set the right price for your landscaping services. Before we get into the step-by-step process of estimating, we want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, HeavyApe.com, the home of the Build Your Own multi-million-dollar construction business course. This online course will teach you everything you need to know in order to launch, scale, and market your own landscaping business. And right now, they're giving away a free construction business starter kit. Check out the link to the kit in the description below. Now let's get back to the video. How to estimate landscaping jobs step by step. You'll most likely develop your own procedure and style over time, but here is a traditional way to get started with your pricing of landscaping work. Number one is start by talking to the client on site. When it comes to pricing a landscape job, the first step is to always talk to the client. It's essential in order to get a clear understanding of the scope of work and the client's expectation. Furthermore, meeting with the client on site allows you to get a better sense of the property and any potential obstacles. By taking the time to talk to the client, survey the property, you'll ensure you're providing an accurate estimate. Number two is considering your materials cost. The next step in pricing this job is to consider the cost of materials. This includes any and all items you need for the job, such as compost, lighting, cement, seeds, plants, mulch, even stone. Don't overlook a single thing, even if it's a purchase that you'll use for other jobs as well. Once you have your list, work out how much it will all cost you. This will give you a good starting point for pricing your landscaping jobs. Number three, what are your overhead costs? Overhead is a broad term that covers expenses necessary for doing business, like rent, marketing, office utilities, subscriptions, and vehicle payments. And don't forget about insurance. You always want to have insurance in place, just in case of a mishap. The ability to produce a certificate of insurance is a phenomenal selling point when you deliver your bid because it shows the client you have a great deal of professionalism. By taking into account all of your overhead costs, you can develop an accurate bid for your next landscaping job. Number four, do you need subcontractors? After you've determined what the job entails, your next step is to consider if you do need to use subcontractors. There's several benefits to subcontracting work, including being able to price the job more competitively and increase flexibility in terms of timing and project management. However, there's also potential drawbacks to think about, such as the need to build trust with that subcontractor and the possibility of increased cost if the project runs over schedule. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to use subcontractors will come down to a balancing of all these factors. If you're confident you can manage the project effectively and remain within budget, then subcontracted work might be the way to go. However, if you're unsure about either of those things, it might be best to steer clear. Either way, this is something that's important to consider before you deliver that bid to the client, especially before the job begins. Number 5 is estimate labor cost. One of the most important elements in pricing a landscape job is estimating the labor cost, and it can be difficult to do because it depends on a number of factors, including the type of work to be done and the experience level of all the workers. If you have an established landscape business with an established crew behind you, it might not be too difficult for you to get an idea of labor cost. But if you're new to the business, though, this can be more of a challenge. However, there are a few ways to get an accurate estimate. First, check with other landscaping contractors who would be willing to share their experiences as to what they charge for similar jobs. And second, make use of online tools that can help you estimate labor cost based on the type of work and the number of workers needed. Number 6 is add your markup. Any business has to make a profit to stay afloat, and the landscaping business is no different. After you've calculated the cost of materials and labor for the job, your next step is to add your markup. This markup should cover your overhead expenses like insurance, rent, marketing, and it should also provide a profit for the business. The size of the markup varies depending on the type of job and the overhead cost of the business. For example, a small residential job might have a markup of 10 to 15%, when a large commercial job might have a markup of 30 to 40%. By carefully calculating your cost and adding an appropriate markup, you can ensure that your landscaping business is profitable and sustainable in the long term. Number 7, deliver the final price and estimate in your bid. Once you have a good understanding of this job at hand, you can begin to put together the bid. The next step is to deliver that final price and estimate right to the client and make any necessary adjustments. Finally, it's important to stay flexible and be willing to negotiate if the client starts to haggle. What do most landscaping contractors charge per hour? Most landscaping contractors do charge by the project rather than the hour. This is because charging by the hour hurts the contractor if they finish the job ahead of schedule, and also tends to make the client uncomfortable because it's unclear up front how much they'll actually have to pay. Unforeseen issues can also affect the timeline of a project, so it's best to avoid charging by the hour. The cost of a landscaping project depends on the size of the yard and the type of work being done. For example, sod installation is typically less expensive than designer landscaping. Overall, landscaping costs range from $5 to $35 a square foot on average. While your prices can certainly be higher or lower than that depending on where you live and the amount of scope of work that's involved, it's a good ballpark estimate for you to work with. A few unique landscaping bid items to consider. In any type of construction project, it's important to create a detailed and accurate bid. This document should outline the estimated cost of labor, materials, and other expenses associated with the project. For a landscaping project, there are a few unique bid items that you need to consider. Pricing commercial landscape jobs. Pricing a commercial landscaping job can be a daunting task, but there's some key things to keep in mind that'll make that simpler. First and foremost, it's important to have a portfolio that shows your previous work. This gives your potential client an idea of the quality of your work and what they can expect if they choose to hire you. In terms of pricing, it's often best to provide businesses with an itemized quote. They need to see exactly what they're paying for. It's a great idea for residential customers as well, but it's even more of a priority with commercial clients because they may have to present your bid to other stakeholders like a board of investors, a manager, a director, in order to get that project approved. How to price lawn care jobs. Many landscaping contractors offer holistic lawn care services that include the care of lawn over the course of several months or a full season, spring to fall, or even the entire year. You might bill the services via appointment, or you might bill on a daily, monthly, or weekly cycle. The first step in pricing that lawn care job is to assess the scope of the work. Are you just mowing the lawn, or are you watering, fertilizing, and taking care of other aspects? The more involved the job, the higher the price will be. And once you have a clear understanding of the work involved, you can begin to develop a pricing strategy. One option is a flat fee for each appointment. Now, this is simple and easy to understand, but it may not reflect the true cost of the job. Another option is that monthly or weekly rate. This captures all the costs associated with the job, but it may be harder for the customer to budget for. And then ultimately, the best pricing strategy is one that reflects the true cost of the job and provides value for both you and your customer. Pricing mulching jobs. Well, here we go. Mulching is another unique landscaping job that you may or may not want to include in your regular quoting process. It's an isolated task performed infrequently, so it tends to make more sense to price it based on factors like square footage of mulch, material, and project-based labor. To start, you'll need to determine the square footage of the area that's being mulched. Then you can calculate how much material you'll need, and that'll also give you an idea of the scope of the project. Next, you'll have to choose the mulch material. Some common options include wood, chips, leaves, and straw. Once you've selected a material, you'll have to decide whether you're charging by the hour or the project. And if you're experienced with mulching, you might opt with an hourly rate. However, if you're new to the task or have a large project, it's probably best to charge by the project. In either case, be sure to give the customer a detailed estimate before you start work. Thanks for sticking with us to the end of the video, and to show our appreciation, we're going to give you a 25% coupon code to the HeavyApe.com course. Just enter ENC and spell it out, EANDC. Put that in when you're checking out. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Well, that's all we have for now. And be sure and subscribe so you'll be notified whenever we release a new video guide.